To spend 5 weeks on love. I couldn't have possibly forgotten today's subject in my planning. Forgiveness. I've spoken for hours over the years about forgiveness because it changes things. It frees us from bondage. It clears the way for healthier relationships. It improves our mental health, releases anxiety and hostility. It's proven to lower blood pressure. It eases symptoms of depression. It even improves heart health. Forgiveness. It's like a miracle. Many of you have spent time with me talking about and practicing forgiveness. We have stories that require it. We've been offended and rejected and abused. The need for forgiveness is great and sometimes very difficult. We've learned that forgiving doesn't mean forgetting, but it does mean letting go. We've learned that forgiving only takes one person, and that person is you. It's complicated and it's layered and oh so critical for a joy-filled life. And that's why I wanted to talk with you today, because there's one person we all struggle to forgive: ourselves. Even if we've gotten pretty good and pretty consistent, which we should be about forgiveness, about offering forgiveness to others, it isn't easy to forgive ourselves. Sometimes that's the hardest. I've spoken to many of you over the years who carry regret and shame around with you every place you go. You've done things, you've said things, you've gone places, you've made choices that quite literally haunt you. When we've done something wrong, we register it in our nervous system. When we've done something we regret, we often connect it to beliefs like I'm bad, or I'm not enough, or if people knew what I'd done, they wouldn't like me. Then we carry that belief around with us like we are the offender. We hold ourselves captive. We allow those offenses to have power over us, over our very lives. While guilt implies that you're a good person who did something bad, shame makes you see yourself as a bad person. This can bring up feelings of unworthiness, which, left unresolved, can lead to addiction, depression, and aggression. When I think about love and forgiveness, something comes up for me. It's easier to forgive people I love. My heart is softer, my motivation is greater, and my relationships depend upon it. It got me to thinking more than, if we're on this journey to learn to love ourselves and love ourselves well, shouldn't forgiving ourselves be one of the things we get really good at? Forgiving ourselves is different and feels different than forgiving others. We tend to think of ourselves and our lives as a continuum, a human being that begins with our past, moves briefly through the present, and then heads towards the future. Letting go of our own past, or the past we've created in our heads, can feel shaky and ungrounded. When we try to forgive ourselves, we're trying to release something that feels like it's a part of us. We're releasing who we were at that moment that we did that thing. When we forgive what someone else has done, it really seems easier. We're releasing a part of our past that really isn't essential in who we are. A lot of us don't have that loving, trusting relationship with ourselves. Many of us are much more critical of ourselves than we are of others. We'll give other people the benefit of the doubt, but we won't cut ourselves any slack at all. Forgiveness. It's often defined as a deliberate decision to let go of feelings of anger and resentment towards someone who you believed has wronged you. What if that person is you? Self-forgiveness is not about letting yourself off the hook. It's not a sign of weakness. It's the act, whether you're forgiving yourself or someone who's wronged you, does not suggest that you're condemning the behavior. It means that you accept the behavior, you accept what's happened, and you're willing to move past it and move on with your life without ruminating over past events that can't be changed. Forgiving yourself is about more than just putting the past behind you and moving on. It's about accepting what has happened and showing compassion to yourself. Acceptance, that can be the hardest part. But here's the thing. By denying your behavior and not extending grace to yourself, you'll just continue to allow the past behavior to have power over you. You're not approving of your past behavior. You're just accepting it. I attended a webinar conference last week with Adam Young titled How People Heal. Do you know why I went to the conference? The counselor on the podcast, he's the one that does The Place We Find Ourselves, the podcast that so many of you have listened to. He said, when he started out this conference, the number one reason people don't heal is, want to know? The number one reason people don't heal is their pace of life. It's not that we can't heal or we don't have the ability to do it. It's that we don't take the time to heal. So I'm going to invite you again to choose to take the time to do some forgiveness work just with you. That person that you're learning to love like no other. I've taken so many of you through the steps of forgiveness and the practice and what it looks like practically. But I want to do it again, all while you're thinking about doing this practice about you, for you, because of you. My story of learning about forgiveness and the practice of it was when I chose to forgive my mom for leaving me when I was 13. I had carried unforgiveness around inside of me for years without really understanding what it was doing to me, not even knowing I was carrying it around. And because it was doing things to me, it was doing things to the people around me. I went to a counselor specifically to do forgiveness work. I sat with a legal pad, a long one, and started making a list of any and every offense I could think of that my mom had done to me. The list was long, and I was quite frankly shocked at the amount of things that came up in my memory that I had never thought about for 35 years. I had lived it, but never thought about it. I listed all the things that I could remember that were hurtful, that brought me pain and sadness regarding my mom. All the ways she wasn't there for me, and the feelings I had about her choosing someone else over me. I didn't blame her, but I named the harm she caused me and was very specific about it. I wrote particular scenes that I remembered. And that's when I touched the pain. I lingered there for a while until I went to the next step. The hard part. I spoke out loud. Mom, I forgive you for. Over and over and over, with every sentence that was written on the legal pad. Mom, I forgive you for leaving me on the curb. Each sentence became a little more painful, a little more emotional. I've learned this about letting go too. You can't let something go if you never embraced it to begin with. So I was embracing the pain and choosing to let go and releasing my mom from judgment. Did this make her right? No. Did this change my past? No. Did it change my future? Oh my goodness, yes. My mom passed away 1 year ago this month at the age of 96 years old. My forgiveness work allowed me to love and care for her in spite of the past until she went home. I am forever grateful. So I got through my list, speaking out loud, sobbing all the way through, just so you know, spoke out loud, and then spoke, Mom, I release you from my judgment. And then I ripped up that paper in the smallest pieces I could possibly rip and threw them away. Ah, the release. So what if you slowed down your pace and chose a day, an afternoon, and did this practice all about you? You sit with a legal pad and you go back as far as you can remember and write out particular scenes. You're specific about the way you harmed others and you harmed yourself. You don't make it easy. You feel it. You engage your heart in the story. The list, it's just for you. No one else is going to see it. So you go for it. And you linger there for a while. And then, after you're done writing, you speak over the list one sentence at a time. Letha, I forgive you for. Val, I forgive you for. Wendy, I forgive you for. Nancy, I forgive you for. Dave, I forgive you for. Audrey, I forgive you for. Speak your name here. I forgive you for. Speak it out loud. Embrace your story. Engage your heart. Choose to forgive yourself. Slow your pace. And then say, I release you from judgment. I love you. I extend grace to you. I'm compassionate for you. And then rip that paper up and throw it out. And friends, one time won't be the end of your forgiveness story, I promise. Because we're humans and we make mistakes. And we don't have to let our mistakes have power over us. So we keep the process going. The lists become really short as you get good at the practice. So many of you at the Healthy Way are people of faith, so I want to say this as well. God has forgiven you. Now I want to encourage you to do the same. We forgive people we love because it frees us to love them better. We forgive people we love because we feel at peace when we do it. We forgive people we love because we know the harm that carrying around resentment towards that person will do to us. Now, it's time to forgive that person that you are learning to love well. Yourself. Slow your pace. Engage your story. Forgive yourself. It is the most loving thing to do. I encourage you guys to do it. Love you so much. See you next time.